Shopify is setting boundaries for AI agents on its merchant sites. According to Modern Retail, Shopify is drawing a line in the sand on agentic AI, the type of bots that autonomously complete tasks on their own without human inputs, with new language across merchant websites that appears aimed at blocking agentic AI systems. Shopify now includes a warning in their code that powers merchant storefronts, telling bots what they can and can't do. The message appears in each site's robots.txt file, a standard tool websites use to give instructions to automated crawlers like search engines. The new line states, quote, automated scraping, buy for me agents, or any end-to-end flow that completes payment without a final review step is not permitted, end quote. The move, however, is not likely an outright rejection of agentic AI. The added language directs legitimate integrators to use its official checkout kit. In other words, the change shows Shopify is thinking ahead, drawing early boundaries between controlled integration and unregulated automation. Shopify merchants could theoretically override the robots.txt file, as Shopify is a content management system. In other words, the change shows Shopify is thinking ahead, drawing early boundaries between controlled integration and unregulated automation. But the default setting suggests the platform is trying to protect its ecosystem by discouraging unauthorized AI scraping and checkout information. David, we're going to ask you a more top level question here. I won't ask you about robots.txt files, but are retail boardrooms giving enough attention to agentic AI, or is Shopify ahead of the curve and trying to curb AI bot activity on its properties?
So a couple things here, Ann. One, I think this is the best news I have heard this year from a Shopify
Yeah.
Wow.
standpoint, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if you try to book a reservation in New York City for any restaurant that's worth going to, if you want the latest collab with Adidas and Bonner, or pick any collabs that are out when they drop, you want to try to buy concert tickets on the day of release, you can't do any of that anymore as a person that is sitting in front of a computer and waiting for 10 a.m. and then clicking, right? It just doesn't
Yep.
happen, right? Because all of the bots have completely taken over. So I actually think this brings some validity back to the online shopping experience, and allows humans to participate, which I think is which is a great thing. Um, to your broader question, I think boardrooms are starting to pay attention to
Yeah.
agentic AI in a
Right.
lot of different ways, right? I think it's very analogous to almost the outsourcing journey, right? Is like there's the commodity stuff you can do with agentic AI of data aggregation and things like that, and like automating certain things or eliminating certain things. I think it's really tip of spear stuff, and very few people are doing really cool pricing, personalization, merchandising stuff yet, because they the skill set is outrageously expensive to hire right now because there's not
Mhm.
enough of it. So you're only seeing kind of the largest players, primarily in the tech space, that are kind of really pushing the envelope. I don't. I think retailers are a step or two behind the curve, but I think they're starting to realize that they are a step or two behind the curve, and the next couple of years are going to be interesting to see. A, the talent war, and then
Mhm.
B, how that talent is deployed to help retailers.
Right. Well, certainly a reason, I think, like you said, I thought this was one of the most intriguing stories that we had this week on the Fast Five, but certainly something that, is going to push hopefully more retailers to start putting more focus on this as a priority for them. Chad, where do you sit on this? Are you feeling like this is being talked about enough in boardrooms that you're sitting in?
Well, I think there's probably lots of talk in boardrooms about
Sure.
agentic AI, but maybe not from the I don't know, kind of ethical or perspective that Shopify's coming at it, right? So it's about commerce maximization, and I do think Shopify is ahead of the curve in terms of thinking about that activity, right?
Hmm.
I mean, this raises huge questions around enforceability and legal consent and e-commerce. And personally, to me, I'm an all in favor for slow playing AI in places where AI decision making imposes risk. I mean,
Hmm.
I love the idea of it, right? I mean, the consequences of allowing AI free reign to make mistakes or whatever the ramifications, like it can cost a lot of money, at the very least, piss a lot of people off. So
Hmm.
there is a spectrum in terms of in its development how AI should be used in decision making, right? And as David said, the super repetitive, lower risk, quite frankly, if there's little for the human to add, yeah, let AI run wild, right? But in these cases where either AI can err or it provides an imbalance in the market, so either around what the AI will do, so it's a
Hmm.
risk-based decision, or if there's something that a human can add to the decision or execution, so more of a value-based decision, we need the human intervention, at least until we're developed at that point. And Shopify is saying that's the case with agentic AI, and frankly, I'm not going to push back on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a really good point, Chad, and I think it just re-emphasizes how important this is because I think we have to all be agile and ready to react and adapt our businesses to to be in a position to change if we need to based on how search is going to be happening. I mean, I think we look at how Amazon was doing this. You could shop Aloe Yoga and buy a bra on Amazon even though they weren't in the Amazon marketplace. I think it's going to be really important for all brands, all retailers to focus on how this is going to continue to shift and then how search behavior is going to shift as a result. But Chris Walton, close us out.
Oh my God, yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on this one. I mean, I think, if I look at it from the executive perspective, the first question I ask myself is, why do we allow any of this? Why do we
Hmm.
allow bots to come in and scrape pricing? Like if I'm Walmart, why do I want my pricing out in the internet sphere? Like why do we allow that to happen? And so then I start thinking about the lobby efforts across the retail industry, and I'm like, we're spending all this time lobbying for credit card processing fees. Why aren't we lobbying for regulation to limit bot activity or to control bot activity in some way, shape, or form? So that's one question. But given that there's an absence of that, then the bigger question for me is, how does what we're talking about evolve? And my gut tells me that the agentic AI platforms are going to it's going to become Marketplace 2.0. And those agentic AI platforms are going to get a cut of the revenue directed from those retailers that ultimately allow them to plug in simply and easily. It won't be everybody, but it's going to be
Hmm.
some of them. And so the task list for me, if I'm a CEO or I'm in that boardroom trying to say, how do I do this, is I have to ask myself, what am I okay with getting scraped and what am I not okay with getting scraped? Like, do I want agentic agents on my site checking out for someone without that customer ever entering into my property? My guess is a lot of people probably don't. So then it comes down to, what's it going to cost for me to prevent certain information from getting transmitted that way? I don't know the answer to that. I don't even know if it's even possible. But those are the discussions. You've got to start outlining, what are we okay with, what are we not, and then go from there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and not just the economic costs, but what are the costs if the customer can't purchase? Like, are you going to see a reduction in customer spend or awareness of your product if you're not allowing that activity too?
You don't get the first party data. You don't get
Yep.
anything that you're used to getting. There's a lot of costs that come with allowing sites or bots to scrape you in
Right.
ways that you're not ready for.